Luke, Leia, Lando, Chewie, and the droids have rendezvoused with Wedge Antilles and Rogue Squadron at a rebel base near Gaul. They're here to rescue Han, with the help of a space jockey named Dash. Leia does a double take when she meets him. With red hair and green eyes, the tall, lean pilot for hire doesn't really look like Han, but still, there's something about his cockiness and swagger that is all too familiar. Dash claims Boba Fett's on Gaul, having Slave One repaired before setting out for Tatooine. Gaul is patrolled by 2 Star Destroyers and a dozen squadrons of TIEs. Yet Luke brazenly declares his rescue plan a piece of cake. Leia notices plenty of similarities between Han Solo and this new rogue she's hooked up with, Dash Rendar. Both egotistical, brash smugglers and pirates for hire, they're cut from the same swashbuckler's cloth. Oh yeah, and each knows a bit about flying hot rod spaceships too. Leia gets an uncomfortably close look at Dash's piloting derring-do as she and Lando, aboard the Millennium Falcon, tailgate Dash's Outrider through the treacherous Red Rock canyons of Gaul. But it's not just an I-can-do-anything-you-can-do game. Flying low helps them avoid detection by Imperial sensors as they close in on Boba Fett. IG-88's attack on Slave One leaves the ship in need of repairs, which forces Boba Fett to the moon, Gaul, in issue 2 of Dark Horse Comics' 6-part Shadow series, written by John Wagner, with covers by Hugh Fleming and interior art by Killian Plunkett. Fett has to deal with bounty hunters honing in on Boba's valuable captive Han Solo. Zuckuss and Bosk ask Fett to share Jabba's hefty reward for Han. Fett refuses, employing his blaster and a series of evasive maneuvers. Boba ends the meeting and retreats back to his ship. Waiting for him, though, is Forlom and other unwelcome stowaways. It's like old times. Luke, Wedge, and Rogue Squadron engaging a swarm of TIE fighters. This time it's to intercept Boba Fett by distracting the Imperial fleet while the Falcon and Outrider attempt to rescue Han. It's a deadly decoy operation. With a score of TIE kills and 2 rogues downed, Luke nearly becomes another victim when he flies into a nest of enemy fighters and suddenly sees one barreling straight for his X-Wing. The Force, no doubt, is growing in the young Jedi as his laser fire is truer than his opponents. Yet it's going to take many more Jedi to stem the TIEs that continue to attack. So Luke says it's time for the squadron to head home. Luke confronts 2 very different attackers as he retreats to the Rebels' secret moon base near Gaul. After dispensing with a zealous TIE pilot who'd given chase, he's nearly picked off by friendly fire coming from a fellow rogue and its gone haywire R2 unit. The droid has somehow taken control of Wes's X-Wing and is in a shoot-to-kill, cat-and-mouse game with Luke's ship. Maneuvering with all his might, Luke feels the Force flow through him as he summons the helpful presence of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke's pinpoint shot finally knocks out Wes's guns, but the close call leaves the fledgling Jedi pondering his fragile mortality. TIE fighters are swarming around the Millennium Falcon. Leia and Chewie score plenty of direct hits, but their guns are no match for the sheer number and combined firepower of the attackers. While Lando considers a defensive strategy and debates the dangers of landing on Gaul, he spots their target, Slave One, taking off. Leia implores Lando to follow, but the wall of Imperial fighters between the Falcon and Boba Fett's ship is impervious. They can't even hail Luke and Rogue Squadron because the Falcon's comm is out. Leia forgets her own plight as Han's precarious fate consumes her. Lando Calrissian has a long history with the Millennium Falcon, having flown her into and out of lots of jams. But this one may be the stickiest one yet. Trying to catch up with the fleeing Slave One would be tough enough, but there's a seemingly endless wall of Imperial fighters chasing them from just above the cityscape of Gaul. Lando gets the Falcon to do a nifty sideways maneuver through a pair of towers, a trick the pursuing TIE can't quite duplicate. Meanwhile, Boba Fett has probably reached hyperspace by now, which means Leia's chance of saving Han has taken flight too. Luke should be used to dealing with the selfish attitudes of freelance pilots, but he's furious with Dash for bailing out of the Gaul rescue mission and leaving the crew of the Falcon in dire straits. When he catches up with Dash at the Rebel base, Luke nearly takes a swing at him, but he realized that giving into his anger is only giving into the dark side of the Force. Anyway, the Falcon is safe, and Luke still needs to check into that bollocksed-up R2 unit on Wes's fighter. Too late! Not only is the droid in smithereens, but the crew chief who sabotaged it is about to blast Luke before Wedge shoots her first. It leaves Leia wondering who's trying to kill Luke and why. You can download the dataset for Wedge Antilles' voice on Patreon now. Orders from up top are to leave a like, subscribe, and become a member on Patreon. Or buy me a blue milk coffee on Ko-Fi to support our upcoming Shadows of the Empire fan film.